A good mystery game is an immensely complex machine with every part running in perfect harmony, every clue teased but not given away. And then, at the moment of the big reveal, the audience, the readers, the players all say, "Of course, I should have known." Right? Nah.
It's so much stupider than that.
Believing that the success of a mystery game lies in its immense complexity, that gets in the way of us actually writing a mystery game. We can do it, and we don't have to be Agatha Christie for it to work. Because anyway, our players are not Benoit Blanc either. Writing a mystery game can actually be simple. So the aim of this video is to streamline the process and give you some steps you can take to create a mystery one-shot, all while making it easy to run and enjoyable for your players. As a one-shot, it's gonna be self-contained and playable within a 3 to 5 hour long session. This is of course not the only way to do it, but I find it to be a pretty stress-free method. Because we don't want to lose sanity points over this, trust me, I've been there. So let's get to it. Journey over destination. Running a one-shot inherently implies one big constraint. One shot, one session. The players need to get to some sort of resolution by the end of game night, otherwise it would be anticlimactic. But we also don't want the mystery to be too railroady, because it should require more than one brain cell to solve. This is how we cheat a bit and hack the system. I have one go-to model for one-shots that I find especially effective. We can put some rails on getting the players from start to finish, because that's not the mystery. Your players will easily get to the final scene by the end of the session. The real mystery is, can they figure out what is actually going on before they get to that final scene? And if they can figure out the twist and get their eureka moment, that will greatly impact the resolution. For example, here's a basic premise. Visitors are mysteriously dropping asleep in the lodge greenhouse of London's Royal Botanical Gardens. The culprits are a bunch of pixies. About a week ago, the biologists returned to the greenhouse from their expedition with a bunch of exotic orchids, including one that contains some pixie eggs. I don't know if pixie lay eggs, it doesn't matter. The pixies are now trying to get access to the laboratory to get back their children while taking out their discontent on the visitors. In this case, the breadcrumbs leading to the pixies' hideout are quite easy to follow, but all the other clues, more difficult, will influence what's gonna happen once they get there. Will they figure out that the culprits are pixies and therefore prepare accordingly to deal with them? Will they deduce weaknesses that they can exploit? Or will they find out the pixies' motive and decide on a more peaceful approach? Even if there are some rails to make sure we get to the end, the resolution will greatly differ depending on how much of the mystery was solved. Red thread and loose pins. Once I have my basic premise for this one-shot, it's time to structure it into an outline. I write down all the conclusions that my players could reach. For example, the culprits are pixies. They are scared for their children. They're after one specific plant in the greenhouse. And they have a hideout in the laboratory where the orchid is trapped within a tank. And so on and so on. I break down these conclusions into smaller clues that can be linked to each other, such as an expedition has recently returned with some new plants, the visitors who fell asleep remember dreaming of their children and being scared to lose them, mushroom rings have begun to appear in the greenhouse, and so on and so on. For a conclusion you really want your players to reach, you can use the 3-clue rule. You can find it on the Alexandrian, which by the way is a treasure trove of resources. But back to our mystery. Each conclusion I want my players to reach can be in one of 2 categories. Going with the corkboard metaphor, only because I have a slight obsession with them, it's either the red thread or it's a loose pin. The red thread are the clues that lead my players from point A to point B. They should be easy to acquire, and from them I work backwards from the end to figure out my outline. The main purpose of these clues really just is to take the players from scene to scene. We get to the hideout thanks to a clue on scene 3, thanks to a clue on scene 2, thanks to a clue on scene 1. Following the red thread will take your players to the end, but it will not give them the full picture. Red thread is tunnel vision. On the other hand, loose pins are all the clues that could give them the full picture before they get to the resolution. You just pepper them here and there. Loose pins are harder. They are the core of the mystery and what needs to be deduced. You will likely find yourself moving things around and adjusting, but by the end of it, you should have a pretty good outline. Creating exciting scenes. Now that we have an outline, we can start refining our scenes. I would recommend planning just a few, between 3 and 5. Because every time the scene changes, the tension is reset. Let's make it interactive and focus on quality versus quantity. If it were a movie, we could just edit it together to make 4 hours of interviewing witnesses into something exciting. But since it's not a movie, the question I ask myself is, what is the most exciting way to deliver this piece of information? What can happen in each scene to break the rhythm of finding clues one after the other? And how can I draw the players deeper into the mystery? mystery. Maybe a social puzzle or a minigame. For example, your contact will only tell you what they saw if you gamble with them and win. Let's get some examples from Or Pixies. Instead of just hearing from the victims about their dreams, it can happen to one of the players during their rest and becomes a nice roleplay opportunity. You can use chase scenes, combat encounters, exploration, skill challenges. The core of the mystery genre is the pursuit of clues, but the core of a TTRPG is to play the game. Really, it's just looking at every clue and thinking, what's the best way I could deliver that? Tailor it to the characters. This is not really the next step I take, but rather something I keep in mind throughout the writing process. I try to account for the player's abilities. Depending on the game system, some abilities that the characters have might drastically impact the unveiling of the mystery. Many of us play Dungeons & Dragons, and for example, so many characters can detect fae, fiends, undead, celestials. Remember spells like Locate Object, Zone of Truth, Charm Person, Detect Thoughts, and the best of all, Speak with the Dead. If you players can straight up talk to the corpse and say, hey, who killed ya? Your short adventure might become very, very short. These abilities are not a bad thing, on the contrary. The reason why your players pick them is because they're cool and they want to use them. It's an opportunity for their character to get some spotlight, and we shouldn't deprive them of that. What we can do, however, is plan our mystery in a way that accounts for these abilities. Maybe even expect your players to use them and build a clue specifically for it. It's their time to shine. Just don't rely on it too much. I will end on this note. Remember that as GMs, our mission is more to help tell the story of the characters and how they unveil the truth. It's not to build secrets that will never be uncovered. There's plenty more I want to say about mysteries in TTRPG. Different structures, how to play the long game, different techniques that I find interesting. But just one video will never cover all of it. I will soon have plenty more to put on the cookboard. But until then, good evening, and may you easily find your way among the truth and lies.